Hi, my name is Ron Cole, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you a matting process known as front light backlight matting. And what I want to show you is, let me give you a little preview of the sequence that I'll be showing you some frames from here. Okay, this armature stand-in for a puppet was shot separately from the live action background. And the matting process that I've used, front light, backlight, is a matting process which in many cases can give you a cleaner matte line than either chroma keying or blue screening, although it's really ideal for stop motion animation. You really can't use this for live action because it's got to be done one frame at a time, and I will show you why. When I'm actually shooting, I'm shooting 2 frames of each individual pose in my animation. Let me just drop these into preview to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, each frame that I shoot is shot first with the front light, which means I have my light focused onto my puppet, and the light is also shielded to create a shadowed background. What's behind him is actually a white wall, but I have it shielded so that all I get are what I want in the image after it's combined, and whatever's black in the image will be replaced by the background that I'm putting it into. Right, so I take this frame first, and then I switch my lights so that the background is illuminated, and all I can see of my puppet is a silhouette. And between these 2 images, I can create a matte in Photoshop Elements, and I will show you how I do that. First thing first is when I take my memory card out of my camera, it usually looks like this, where it's every other frame. But just for sanity's sake, I like to turn it into 2 rows, and if I arrange them by name, and that way I get 2 rows of every other, and I can select all of the backlight photos, drop those into one file, and then all of the front light photos go into another file, and then I can get rid of that file now. So now I have 3 files. This one already has the background frames, and all of the backlight images and the front light images are separate. So when I go into Photoshop, it's easy for me to find them. Okay, now here in Photoshop, I've opened up the 3 frames that I need to deal with. The first picture I'm going to put in as a layer is my backlight. So I'll select that and paste it into my background. And this image is not high contrast enough. I really need this background to be very, very white, and the silhouette to be very, very black. So in Enhance, I'll adjust the lighting, brightness, contrast, and turn both of those all the way up. So now I've got a really nice high contrast. Now right here, you've got a box for your layering style in your layers bin. So from there, we want to get rid of the light. So we'll choose the layering style darken, and that will just leave the dark elements of the image. And on top of that, we'll take your front light image and copy that and paste that in as the next layer. And for this one, the layering style will be the opposite. Instead of darken, it will be lighten, because the light parts are the only thing we want to keep. There you go. You got the matte. Looks pretty good already. Let's see, actual pixels, and let's see if I can find any flaws in it. And an easy way to find flaws is to shut off your front light, so you're just looking at the silhouette, and what you want to look for are reflections like this, and like this, and this, and you can see that any place where you've got it, that'll end up being a transparency. And you can get rid of that by turning on your paintbrush, paint some black over that in the silhouetted image. Shut that off again. Paint some black over that. And actually you can do this with all of the layers on, and wherever you're painting black in, it will just eliminate the more transparent area. Now you can see right here, I've got a lot of reflection here, and yet in the matte it really doesn't seem to matter all that much. I'm just doing this if I want to be picky about it, just to make sure that area is completely opaque. But in most cases that really won't matter all that much. Now, if you've got something like this, like a flying rig, like I have to keep my puppet suspended in midair, and you want to get rid of that, then the thing to do would be to zoom in on your puppet really close and just select that whole thing. Just zooming in close here just for the parts where it's actually physically touching him. And then to get the rest of it, zoom out on the whole image. And then you can just do a sloppy circle around that whole thing. Now I'll add a new layer, and that way I can just add in more white into that whole area with the paint bucket. Okay, and then I will merge down on that. So now you can see, because, let me see if we shut this off, you can see the only thing I've got left is just the silhouette part. And now come back up to the black layer and do the same thing, except fill that in with black. Oops. It's easier to do it if I add a new layer, because the paint bucket will fill in one type of color at a time. So merge that down, and there, I've gotten rid of that. So if I go back to actual pixels, you can see I've gotten rid of my rig, and the matte looks pretty good. Now, there's one last part of it I want to show you, is that this background that I picked is very out of focus, and it doesn't match the sharpness of my armature puppet. So if I want to fuzz just him out, what I can do is select my magic wand tool, and on the front lit layer, just select the black part, and that of course selects the whole black area, and then inverse that, so I'm just selecting him, and I'll modify it by expanding that border by about 5 pixels, and then I'll flatten the image, and then apply a blur. I'll add a Gaussian blur to that by 2 pixels. That looks good. And get rid of my selection line, and now you can see he looks like he fits into there much better. There's a lot more that you can do with this, but I just wanted to show you that whole basic concept of the two contrasting images where the background and the foreground are lit separately in order to create that matte, so that you end up with that. Now, had this been a chroma key green or a blue background for a character like this, where, you know, he's a very shiny white plastic, and had I done him with chroma key or blue screen, there would have been reflections that would have created matte problems, because wherever you have the blue or the green, it's going to disappear out of your matte. But front light, back light matting is, I find, ideal for situations like this, because all you're dealing with is the silhouette created by the backlight to use as your matte, and that will make you happy. That's it. That's all there is to the process. You know, like I said, you can do all your usual Photoshop tweaking and stuff, but that'd be a whole nother tutorial. But that's it for front light, back light. Until next tutorial, I'll see ya. Bye.